Hello there. Thank you for joining us today as part of Nufarm's virtual learning series. I'm Bethany Allison, Customer and Brand Marketing Manager for Nufarm, and I'm excited to introduce to you today Dr. Dan Beran, Technical Services Director for Nufarm, as he takes us through the technical summary of CHAMP Formula 2F.
Thanks, Bethany. Again, my name is Dan Beran, Technical Service Director for Nufarm, and today we're going to be talking about CHAMP Formula 2 Flowable, one of the key copper products in our portfolio. So I wanted to share a little bit about the CHAMP Formula 2F formulation. It's a copper hydroxide product, liquid product, obviously, with 4.5 pounds of copper hydroxide per gallon. Now, all of our CHAMP brands have the copper hydroxide, copper salt, and it's a form that we really like for a number of reasons. First of all, it's well established in agriculture across a wide range of crops and targeted for a number of diseases as well. The copper hydroxide form is really reliable when it comes to releasing the copper ions. They release them completely, so it's an efficient salt of copper that can be used, and then it also has good crop safety and good efficacy. Now, when we compare CHAMP Formula 2F to other copper products or just even other products in our own portfolio, it's important to take note of the metallic copper equivalency, that MCE number that we have listed here. The true copper ions are the actual active ingredients. The copper needs to be released from the copper hydroxide to form the free ions, which is what is effective against bacteria and fungal pathogens. So in CHAMP Formula 2F, the metallic copper equivalency is 2.91 pounds per gallon. Some other attributes of this formulation: it's an improved liquid formulation. It's been developed over a number of years, and there's been some significant improvements in the formulation several years ago. So it's an improved liquid formulation of copper. And then the formulation is also designed with efficacy as well as handling in mind. And so it's designed to ensure optimum leaf coverage and leaf retention. And these are partly attributable to the small particle size of CHAMP Formula 2F. It has the smallest average particle size of any of our CHAMP products at 1.2 microns average particle size. This results in excellent coverage as well as disease protection, one of the key attributes of having a small particle size. In addition, CHAMP Formula 2F is formulated with surfactants. As I mentioned, the formulation has been optimized over the years to assist in mixing and handling, as well as some of the biological effects of leaf retention and rain fastness once it's applied. The product's been tested to assess shelf life, and I'll touch a little bit on that as well. And so the product's got good shelf life. We can do accelerated aging, temperature fluctuations, things like that, to ensure that the product maintains easy dispersion and mixing. And obviously we have a product that handles that well and pours and mixes easily. Some of the factors that affect efficacy of copper products from a biological standpoint and efficacy standpoint is the particle size. In general, the smaller the particle size of the copper hydroxide, the more effective the copper product will be. And part of that is because if you have a small particle, it's going to cover the leaf better. You have small particles of copper hydroxide, and as water interacts with that copper hydroxide, the free copper is released. So if you have smaller particles covering the leaf, there's going to be a more efficient and more thorough release of copper across the leaf surface. And copper is a preventative. It's a contact type of fungicide or bactericide. So you need to have that active ingredient covering the leaf when it interacts or comes into contact with the fungal or bacterial pathogen. So leaf coverage and particle size kind of go hand in hand. In addition, kind of the physical nature too of the formulation, if you have smaller particle size, as well as some of the formulation components, those lend themselves to better retention on the leaf. Smaller particles are going to have more surface area and retention on the leaf, and that also helps with better protection and less runoff after a rainfall event. And I touched on this at the beginning, but again, the copper salt, the form of the copper salt, is also one of the key factors in how effective the copper product can be. Copper hydroxide will release all of the copper ions in kind of a gradual process as it comes into contact or there's moisture becomes available. So you get a gradual but complete release of the copper ions. Relative to other forms of copper, it's not too fast that there's excessive crop injury concerns, and it's not so slow that you have poor efficacy. So you kind of get the best of both worlds with copper hydroxide. Now we touched a little bit on particle size of Champ Formula 2F, and that's illustrated here in this graphic. Again, the average particle size in microns of Champ Formula 2 Flowable is 1.2 relative to some other competitive products. We have New Cop, that's the 3L formulation, average particle size of 244, and Coside 3000 of 5.35. In addition, when you look at not only the average, but how much of the particles are 90% of the particles of Champ 2F are at or below 2.09 microns, and 10% are even less than 0.39. So what that's basically telling you, that's giving you kind of the distribution of the particle size. So it has a really narrow spectrum. So the particles are small and they're really similar in size. The wider that spread gets between 10 and 90, the more variation you have in particle size. Just a little bit on how Champ 2F from a particle size standpoint compares to other products in our portfolio, the Champ Ion and Champ DP, relative to some other copper products in the market. As you'll see, Champ 2F has the smallest particle size, average particle size in microns, a little bit smaller than Champ Ion, our dry, smallest particle size product, and just a little bit smaller than Champ DP as well. But as you'll notice, all three of these have very small particle size relative to other products in this marketplace. And again, you'll notice when you look at the 50% or 90% number, you really get a good indication as to what the distribution size is. So, you're going from 3.2 with an average of 1.8 with Champ Ion, 2.09 with an average of 1.2 with Champ 2F. So that really indicates, again, smaller particle size distribution, a really tight window that just points to, good consistency of the particle size. And you can compare some of the ranges that would be listed here for some of the other competitive products in this marketplace. Again, we feel that the particle size not only impacts handling, but it also impacts efficacy when it's applied. Now, with liquid formulations of copper, that creates kind of a formulation challenge over the years, and the Champ Formula 2F formulation was refined several years ago, and really what we have now is a product that really stands the test of storage as well as maybe temperature extremes during storage. So we really have a product that performs well as stores well, and you can see some of the indications here. In the lab, we can store for a year and do temperature fluctuations and then pull it out after a year and still, have the product that mixes and pours just as well as it should coming straight out of the manufacturing process. So again, you can see some of the pictures here. We also have kind of some documentation of this in videos showing the product coming out of cold storage and being poured as well. So really spent a lot of time on the Champ Formula 2F liquid formulation to ensure that we have a product that meets the needs of customers looking for a liquid copper solution. Let's shift gears now a little bit and talk about the pathogens controlled as well as the crops that Champ Formula 2F is labeled for. As with our other Champ brands, you'll see a wide range of crops listed. Some of the traditional copper markets like grape being targeted, with the copper being targeted for downy and powdery mildew, as well as the many other berries, and you'll see hops listed there as well. One of the things I like to point out, and we'll talk a little bit about this today, is some of the use of Champ Formula 2F in field crops. There's a couple of reasons why this continues to be important. Even though there's a lot of synthetic fungicides, there's not many options for bacterial control, as well as in a case of like sugar beet Cercospora, you have a fungal pathogen that's become very difficult to control with some of the traditional fungicides. So the coppers not only become part of of rotation and resistance management, but they're also very key tank mix components as well in some of the management practices out there for sugar beet, as well as in other field crops as well. Obviously, we have the primary tree crop markets where coppers have historically been used when we think of fire blight and scab and apple and pear, and some of the dormant applications across some of the other tree crops, as well as in citrus, which continues to be a crop that has a high need for copper in managing several different diseases. On the vegetable side, we're targeting a lot of different bacterial blights across many vegetable crops. And again, when you think of this particular market, sometimes the liquid formulation, low use rates really line up well for Champ Formula 2F. So a little bit about the use rate ranges. And again, I'll point out kind of the application rate and what that converts to from a metallic copper equivalency. 1.33 pints of Champ 2F is equivalent to a half a pound of metallic copper. So when you look at the use rate ranges, the berries, vines, and hops are on kind of the low to mid range, similar sort of rate ranges when you look at our field crop rates. When you get to the tree crops, obviously you'll see a wide range, and this is a lot of times driven by, whether it's a post bloom versus a dormant application where you just need high loads of copper equivalency to suppress some of the more difficult bacterial diseases. And then again, back to the vegetable side, we're typically looking at low use rates, and the Champ 2F formulation is very well suited for some of those scenarios as well. One of the additional benefits or potential use patterns of Champ 2F, as well as our other Champ brands, and you'll see this called out on the label, is frost injury protection. It's kind of an interesting phenomenon, but if you can control some of the ice nucleating bacteria, such as these listed here, prior to a frost event, you can basically suppress or delay the formation of the frost crystals, which is what causes the damage on sensitive crops when there's a light frost. And so this is an area that researchers have been looking at here over a number of years, but even more recently in certain high value crops. So it's one that provides some additional benefit and protection in some of the key crops where there's the potential for really severe economic damage due to light frosts that occur at just the wrong time. I touched a little bit on Cercospora leaf spot or leaf blight in sugar beets, and I wanted to share with you a trial conducted in 2019 with North Dakota State, Dr. Mohammed Khan. We've been doing work in this market with sugar beets for a number of years, but wanted to call out a trial that we had conducted in 2019 because it illustrates a couple of benefits of the Champ formulations, as well as how we're using coppers to control a very difficult disease. So Cercospora has become a really aggressive disease in sugar beets, particularly in the upper Midwest. In many situations, growers are treating 4 up to 6 or 7 times per season. As you can see in this trial, we're using 4 applications, using tank mixes almost in every application commercially, and as we did in this trial. So part of the difficulty of Cercospora is that we see resistance build up to the strobilurins, as well as to a lesser degree with the triazoles, as well as things like T-methyl as well. And so in this particular trial, here is the treatment regime that we were looking at. We had 4 applications beginning at disease onset, and what we're looking at is a rotation with Agritin plus Mancozeb or Manzate Max, followed by Triazole Inspire XT, again tank mix with Manzate Max or Mancozeb. Third application of Agritin plus Champ 2F in treatment 1, followed by Proline plus Manzate Max. We've got a 4 rotation. In this treatment 1, we've got 3 tank mixes with Mancozeb and 1 with Champ Formula 2F. Now, when we get to treatments 2 and 3, we trade out the Mancozeb and bring in 3 applications of Champ 2F. And in treatment 3, we do the same, except we trade out Champ Ion. And then in treatment 4, we have a competitive copper product, Badge SC. And so kind of looking at a couple of things, we're comparing not only to Badge SC, but we're also looking at using 3 applications of copper versus 1 in this 4 treatment regime. So a little bit about the trial summary. So I wanted to touch a little bit on the rates of copper that we use. So kind of the standard rate for the liquid products is 32 ounces per acre. So we had 32 ounces of Champ 2F. Again, back to that metallic copper equivalency, that's 0.73 pounds of metallic copper equivalent compared to 0.57 in badge. Again, a lower load of metallic copper in that product. We did have Champ Ion in this trial at 1.9 pounds, and we kind of pulled that rate as well, again, based on university or sugar beet recommendations, but we also wanted to pair up so we had exactly the same amount of metallic copper that was in the badge SC. Some of the things that we found in this trial, treatments 2 or 3, which again had 3 applications of copper instead of 1 in that 4 application rotation. Those 3 applications of Champ tended to outperform that treatment 1 that had the 3 Manzate Max in the tank mixes. And that was based both on beet tonnage as well as sucrose yield. In addition, when we did the comparisons to treatment 4, the treatments with Champ brands performed either similarly or greater than badge SC when it came to disease control and yield attributes. So here's the data from this trial. The first column is CLS, or cost per leaf spot ratings, and all of these perform similarly relative to the non-treated, 10 being, basically complete disease, and I'll show you a picture of what that looks like. The yield, and I've got the Champ 2F data indicated here, 29.9 tons per acre. That was second highest in the trial, came right in behind, statistically the same as the Champ Ion, but also statistically higher than both the 3 rotations of Manzate Max or the badge SC. In addition, when we look down at sucrose yields, which again is kind of the key takeaway for a sugar beet trial, the Champ 2F came in highest on that one as well. So really a positive trial illustrating the importance of copper as well as having a formulation that performs. And it also pointed out, not to say that the Manzate Max is failing or anything, but it does show that copper provides a powerful tool for rotation as well as resistance management. Again, we're trying to protect the triazoles and the agrotin from losing efficacy on this really difficult disease. And so having a multi-site of action of copper becomes very important in a difficult disease like this. This is what those trials, pictures of the sugar beet infestation in this trial look like. So you can see the non-treated. This is only in August, so that's going to continue to, the disease is going to continue to progress. Here's our Champ 2F treatment, again in combination with agrotin and triazoles. Well, again, back to the data versus the check. This is 7.8 tons greater, over 2,600 pounds more of sucrose per acre, and then in the competitive comparison, 1.4 more tons than the badge SC and 357 pounds more sucrose per acre. So again, it just illustrates the efficacy as well as the value of Champ 2F in managing Cercospora leaf spot. A couple of logistics things. Champ Formula 2F is available in 2 by 2.5 gallon packaging, kind of the standard size, but then we've also added the 165 gallon totes here recently, which are really popular with many applicators who are treating larger acres. And again, a formulation that has good handling characteristics is needed if you're going to have a product in a tote like this. So again, just kind of points to the Champ Formula 2F handling properties. So as I wrap up here today, again, Champ Formula 2F certainly is an advanced copper formulation. It's well suited for crops where maybe lower rates are desired or where tank mixing is going on. It's also a user-friendly liquid formulation and is one that for markets that prefer a liquid formulation, Champ Formula 2F has certainly performed well. The smaller particle size, as well as the formulants in the formulation, make for a product that has better bioavailability. And that's really what we strive for with our Champ brands, is to get a product that performs well, handles well, and ultimately gives the grower the disease and bacterial or fungal control that he's looking for. So with that, I want to thank you for joining me today on this webinar. If you have any additional questions on Champ 2F or any of our other products, please feel free to reach out to me or your local Nufarm rep. Again, thank you.